This not happy at all. Timing was like, it seems better when the timing was out. So we're back on the E30. They dropped it off about a week ago. We finally just now got to it. So the first thing I did since it's on the lift is I went ahead and did the wheel speed sensor. So I guess he's changed the diff, and the wheel speed sensors on BMWs are in the differential, but the connector was different. So he bought the connector and I wired it in. I still have to figure out where the wiring is going up front. What I found through the service manual though is that it's probably going straight to the gauge cluster. Now the other thing is that you guys may or may not remember where we last stopped at was we couldn't sync timing because it was leaking oil. Well, another thing too is that if you look where the crank sensor is at, which is that guy right there, the TDC mark is on the other side, so you can't really see it with the timing light because of how close everything is. It's so close that they had to run a pusher fan. Now, so what we did and what we've done before is we winded up to TDC and we basically made a new mark on the crank pulley. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna line that mark up to this line on the oil pan here that we have marked with a permanent marker. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a little bit of whiteout, and we're going to mark both of those just to make it a bit more visible when the timing light hits it. So now we got our arbitrary mark here hit with whiteout and this mark right here. So now we're just going to let this cure for a little bit, let it completely dry. We'll start it up. I've got the O2 sensor here, so we're going to install the O2 sensor. I've got to make a couple changes on the trigger setting stuff, and then we're ready to sync timing. So trying to get the alternator working, we've got some alternator wiring here. I think I've got it sorted. I'm not 100% sure. But anyways, when we had the car running, it developed a nice oil leak here that's coming from the oil feed line. As you can see, it's bubbling out there pretty good. So we're gonna let this cool down. I'm gonna try to put a wrench on it and see if it's tight, but definitely is a problem. This oil feed line, someone else pointed out, is probably kinked, and it's also been stabbing the shit out of me because it's old and worn, and it's got like the stainless steel braiding is starting to come apart. Okay, I'm gonna start this car up. Yeah. Just I'm going to attempt to set timing on my own while laying on the ground. It's on laying on the ground. Yep. Not happy at all. Timing was like, it seems better when the timing was out. Yeah. But now that it's on, the timing is right, it just doesn't sound happy. So the BMW is acting up really badly. It's got like a really low vacuum on the ECU. So we've got our we've got the turbocharger capped off right now, and we've got our smoke tester running, and we're gonna just check for a vacuum leak, which I'm already seeing one is already starting to show on the blow-off valve here. So I don't know if, hopefully there's other ones. It's not looking good though, because we don't have anything below the intake manifold. So this one's not a good look here. I've got the smoke test going into the vacuum, into the intake manifold rather, and it's already smoking here. So that tells me that the intake manifold is already filled up with smoke, and we don't have anything. So I think there's something wrong with this motor. I think it's not timed right or something, but we'll see. I'm gonna pull this off here to see if we get any smoke off of that. So we get smoke off of that. So that tells me the intake manifold is in fact full, but we've got just something else is going on here, and it's definitely not a vacuum leak, unfortunately. So that tells me that it's out of time one way or another. Either there's an issue with the software and it's not timed correctly, or something else is going on. Well, we got some smoking out of the charge pipe here, it seems like. So I think the intercooler itself is leaking, it seems like. Yeah, intercooler's definitely leaking somewhere. So it doesn't seem like we have leaks anywhere else besides the intercooler and the blow valve flange there. That doesn't explain our low vacuum though. Anything with vacuum has to be done, would have to be a leak on the intake manifold side, between the intake manifold and the head, and we definitely don't have that. So that's not our cause of low vacuum. So that sounds like to me that timing is off, or firing order is off for some reason, which I don't think that's the case, to be honest with you. I think it's mechanical timing. I don't know for a fact though, so we're gonna do. The next thing I want to talk about as well, that I just realized that there's something goofy going on with this fuel system here. So we've got the fuel rail here, and if you look, it Ys into the regulator, and then you've got the feed and the return. So it's deadheaded for some reason. This car has a feed and a return, but for some reason they decided that it was the right thing to do was to deadhead it. I'm not sure why, I don't really know, but they did that. I don't know if that's part of our problem. We also have an issue here with the fuel pressure gauge. It basically is always here, even though the car's off and there's no fuel, pretty sure there's no fuel pressure in it, but it's always stuck here. So that's part of the problem, but again, none of this talks about our low vacuum. So I blocked off the idle air control valve just to see if that was a problem, and I can tell you it's not. So you see the vacuum reading here is extremely high. It should be like in the 30s, maybe 40s, but as you can see, it's in the 70s. And so with it being that high, that usually indicates that if it's not a vacuum leak, it's probably something timing related. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to make some changes on this ignition setup, and then just see if there's any changes that occur. Okay, so I had to change it a lot here. I had to shift it all the way over quite a bit to get it to run decent. So I think there's something wrong with it, obviously. So unfortunately, I think we're at a complete stopping point on this car. There's just way more work that was intended that this car needs before I can really wrap it up. The biggest thing is that we're having an issue with syncing timing. And so I have a photo of the crank pulley, and it almost looks like the crank pulley is just put on the wrong way. So there's 6 holes in it, and it doesn't look like they're keyed, which is the weird thing about it. So because they're not keyed, it looks like it can go in numerous different ways, and I think that's what it is. So when we have the mark lined up where it needs to be, the car runs complete dog shit. Like, you can tell that the car is like just overly retarded in timing. But then if we shift it 90 degrees in the wrong direction, the car runs and idles fine, vacuum drops down, it revs up strong. So it almost seems like the crank pulley is out of whack. The problem is that I don't know enough about these cars to make that decision. I don't know if it's as simple as just removing the crank pulley and 6 bolts and then rotating and stick it back on. But even still, how do you know what's the right direction? You know, you put it at TDC and then jam it in. I mean, I don't know, that's the problem. The thing is that we're a Japanese import shop and this is a BMW. It's just out of our scope of what we do. Given time, I could figure it out for sure, but I don't know if the customer can afford to pay that, and we don't know if we have the timeline to do so. So unfortunately, I think this one's a wrap. He'll have to figure out what he wants to do and then get back to me.